Yo, what's happening, man? It's your boy, CD Rome, back with another episode of Watch Your Narrative Podcast presents the league. And we are in the championship edition. This is the championship edition of Watch Your Narrative Podcast. Of course, the last two teams have made their way to the final, and we are going to discuss for sure what those two teams need to do in order to be successful when tonight the first three games of the finals will start. We will also discuss a little bit of the regular season, how it closed out, the matchups in the first round, how those panned out, and and then from there you will have your championship last edition of Watch Your Narrative presents the league. So let's jump right into it, fellas. Number one, let's talk about the regular season and the ending of how things panned out. Syracuse ended up, of course, being the number one seed, number one team, 9 wins, 3 losses. North Carolina and Kansas both being 6-6. Texas was able to squeak their way into the playoffs with a 5-7 record, and Oregon being 4-8. So as you can see there, of course, all those games are being separated by just one win. So we had a very tight race at the bottom four there. Syracuse was able to really create some separation there, and really only lost two games, the first two games of the season, and then from there, they haven't lost since. I mean, they've been able to figure it out, and at this point, no other team have been able to figure them out. Of course, we'll talk about the regular season, and let's go into the rewards. Let's talk about rewards. I'm not sure how the reward system is. I think it was such a foregone conclusion. I guess it just what's the point of talking about it? So let's start with in let's start with numbers. Let's talk about numbers first. Numbers matter. Numbers matter. Syracuse once again, best team, led by their point guard, Ajante, who averaged 27.9. I'm not supposed to say 28 points a game, 12 assists on 70% shooting from the field, 59% from three, average a little bit over 2 turnovers a game, but for high volume player there, excellent season. I don't even think I need to discuss anybody else's stats that when you average 28 and 12, and there is by far no one else near the no, nobody else even has 20 points a game. Let's just nobody else even has 20 points a game. There's the separation there is significant. Very significant. So I don't think anybody would bat an eye if I said my pick for MVP and offensive player of the year would go to Bullock. And a very and I guess if you wanted to just, you know, throw out other names that could have been acknowledged in this, I would probably say nobody. Sorry. Nobody. Nobody. Sorry. But moving on. Defensive player of the year. Uh, something that is very near and dear to my heart, being the inaugural defensive player of the year. And defense wins championships. People have now tried to change that into offense. No, but you have to have some defense. You got to be able to get some stops. And obviously, Syracuse team, they've been able to do that, led by their, to me, their defensive general, Keyshawn, who, of course, I don't think anybody would argue, he's been, even before the season started, saying that that was his goal was to be defensive player of the year. And I mean, 3.6 steals later a game and 1.1 block. He's number one in steals in the entire league. in the entire league. And this is how big the gap is. No one else is even averaging 2 steals a game. I'm gonna say that one more time for the people in the back. No one else is even averaging 2 steals a game. And there's a lot of on-ball menaces, locks, um, that are out there. The closest one is Yodi, who averaged 1.9 steals a game, and also 1.1 blocks a game for the entire league. For the entire league, we're talking about a bunch of big men, right? Um, Keyshawn is second in blocks per game. So once again, 1.1, he is second in blocks per game. Get this. Now, and I'll be honest with you, because he's behind Josh, who has 1.3. Josh only played 6 games, so Keyshawn played 11 games. So we know how those things can kind of shape out there and actually change some things up there. But um, Keyshawn, one 1.1 blocks a game, to me, runaway DPOY, runaway. I don't think there's a close second. The team has won, especially when we're talking about DPOY. I think it's so important your record because defense depict whether or not you're how many games you're going to win. Yes, you can be scoring at the gym, but if you can't get the stops to stop the other team, you're going to lose the game. And Keyshawn has done a great job of being a defensive leader for this particular squad. I think James even said it during the season, was just like, just give them all the rewards, give it everything to Team Syracuse, drop it off at their front door and just ring the doorbell and just leave it there. I mean, they pretty much got everything. There's also this, sixth player of the year. I think that's a foregone conclusion as well. Lou, really one of the only ones really used for reserve out of 10 reserves, Lou and Lion. And now we've been able to see Cognac uh, being used as well. But that's a whole nother story for another day that I may talk about in just a little bit. The sixth man of the year obviously would go to Lou, but then there's also the most improved player award, which I don't even know if I really like the name most improved player. I think it should be more so like comeback player of the year almost. I don't know. Most improved is so I, I don't know. It just depends on who you talk to. What's the requirements? Are we going off last season? Are we going off like what their record was? Are we going off of what their stats were? Are we going off their attitude? Because, the previous most improved player went to JP, and from a career standpoint, career averages, uh, it was that was not his best statistical season. Yes, his best winning season, but JP's also been to a finals before. But up to that point, never won a championship. But we're talking about regular season. Wasn't his best season, but yet and still, everybody, it was a landslide. Everybody in the chat, oh, he's the most improved player. Like, why? Because he decided that he would play a role. I don't think that should be a deciding factor. Nobody said, oh, well, Lou Williams, most improved player. He decided to go to six, come off the bench, take a role, most improved. Like change the name of it if we're gonna do that. Best attitude, teammate of the year, maybe that. But if we're gonna talk about improving, we're gonna talk about, you know, being I'm gonna use the term comeback player because I don't know about improving, but we're gonna say comeback player, a player that may have not had the season that they expected maybe before, but made a super huge comeback the next season. And for me, there was a couple names there that I thought that fit, the requirement of if you want to say most improved or comeback player of the year. And probably two names that I would say. Uh, some people, they brought up, Will was brought up in this equation, and I wouldn't say most improved because a lot of people don't remember what he was doing the year he won a championship, which was very similar, getting the bucket and, shooting at a high clip. So that's what he was with the Mercs. So I wouldn't say necessarily improve, but if you want to use the term comeback, someone's name who we forgot, and then next thing you know, he reminds us of who he is, maybe so. But hey, I said drop everything at the door. Syracuse, just ring doorbell. Uzi, previous season, Uzi was drafted to Greg's team because of his schedule, or I'm not sure what happened there, but we know that Uzi was dropped and for some time picked up by someone. I don't even remember the entire story, but we know that Uzi was not a 11 and 13 rebounds a game player. Or I'm sorry, excuse me, a 13 points, 11 rebounds a game. We know that that wasn't what he was putting up. But we know that also uh, having one block a game as well. So we know now that Uzi had a stellar season. I said that if you drafted Uzi before the season as a center, you're going to get a guy that was going to get some buckets. Shot very high clip, 54% from the field, 45% from three. So to me, obviously, from going from previous season where not just the stats, but also just the fact of getting dropped, picked up all these different things. Uzi, to me, was the second most consistent player on this team. Hence the reason why he's second in scoring on this team, and shooting once again, as I said, a very very high clip. I think to me, his rebounding, his pick and pop, all those things that very very huge for this Syracuse team, and it's going to remain huge going into the finals. So from a war standpoint, yeah, we just kept everything in house. Kept everything in house. But great season to everyone involved. I think that from a captain standpoint, everyone picked well, drafted well. I do think some moves were made throughout the season that I, did not agree with, and even then at that point, we're not good. And hindsight always is 2020. And I think most of those captains that made those moves, they got a chance to bring those, change their minds. I'm sure that they would definitely change their minds on those trades. Terrible, terrible trade. So let's dive into Oregon. Once again, they missed the playoffs. So Cal, of course, went from center to point guard. So did the best he could with what they were thrown up against. So shout out to Team Oregon, Bryant as a captain, as a GM. I mean, a lot to learn from this season. A lot of people, of course, would, and once again, I'm just reporting news here, guys. Just reporting news. So there, of course, and hey, he's aware. We've had this very straightforward conversation with a lot of guys not believing that he would be fit to serve as a captain for next season. And I'm not going to jump on one side or the other. I'm going to stay neutral here as a journalist here. But what I will say is this: when you are a GM or a captain, let me say this as well. I've made bad decisions as a captain, so it can happen. You think that a certain trade would better you, and then it doesn't, or it could be just at the draft and you make a bad draft move. And I think a lot of captains can say, "As well, man, I probably would have drafted different." Like so there's no perfect captain or no perfect GM, but as a GM, as a captain, you are responsible for not just you. This is not just, oh, this is my team. Yes, it's your team. You're given the control there, but what you do affects everybody. It affects the entire league. So if you make a trade, a bad trade, Now you've made the league lopsided, possibly. Or even if you didn't, you just say you hurt your team, and now your team has to have the effects of your bad decision making. And once again, I've been on the side of that where I've made a trade that didn't, hindsight 2020, shouldn't have made it. And it affected my entire team, whether it's morale or whether we just didn't win games. It doesn't matter. It can happen. So I wouldn't, from two sides of it, I can see both sides because the question is, did we learn from this season? Are we going to make better decisions? Is there even someone that wants to be captain? That's the other thing. Like a lot of people don't want to be captain. So if if you want to make a change or of some sort, or be a captain, be a captain. Texas. Texas had a great run. Cody was a really last minute fill in as a captain. Josh was set to be a captain initially. Decided to go with Chris and Terrence as his number one and number two. I guess the biggest question for this team is, would we have been better if we made a switch before, or would we have been better if Terrence wanted to play point guard? Or even besides that, I mean, Terrence was very apparent in saying that he did not want to play point guard. So going back, would you draft him as high? Because there's a difference in saying, okay, I'm drafting you as my lock, or I'm drafting you as my point guard. Point guard is very valuable. And one of the reasons why I was not very high on Texas is just because of that mere question. You know, what are you guys going to do? Who's going to run the show? So, of course, once again, hindsight, you can ask all these different questions. The team that still had a very good season. Terrence put up excellent numbers. I mean, 18 and a half points a game. Started becoming a point guard, had 8 assists with that. One steal a game. I mean, end up shooting 56% from the field, 45% from three. So all the questions that I asked at the beginning of the season, and I also said that because of who he is, he would get it together, was not shooting well when this game first came out. Ended up shooting great. And I mean, ran the show excellent as well. Team to me looked better in that second half of the season. So, I mean, what does that mean going into season two for him? If there is a season two, I'm not sure if I've seen his name on the playlist or what he's going to do. Is he going to want to? I'm pretty sure he's still on the no point guard tip. So if that's the case, I would just say to captains, I mean, respect what these guys want to do. We all paid money for the game. Just respect what these guys want to do. And Terrence, in his case, don't submit it. Even if I know you want to do what's best for the team, man. But if it's going to ruin your happiness, I say don't submit a point guard at all. Even after that 24-hour window, like, hey, I'm just don't expect it. If we don't play good, trade me, trade me for a point guard. I don't know, but I just think that hindsight, the team definitely started to play better, but a little bit late. They were, of course, had a great run, great showing against. Well, I say a great showing. A few quarters had a great showing versus Syracuse, and then it just it fell through. UNC. This was my pick to win it all beginning of the season. When the draft originally happened, where we had Petty, Greg, JP, Phil, Austin. I love the team construction. Yes, Austin was on a non-shooting big, but JP, who was most improved player, was a great shooter last season. Now did not shoot great from the three. It was shooting 17% from at least when the trade happened was shooting 17%. Where is JP shooting now? But at the end of the season, guess what? He's shooting 42% from the three. 42% from the three. So numbers spiked up there, and I think that if he had, and when he was on that team, he was averaging 15 points a game. So I understand, the trade. It was for Josh, who also shot well, 55% from the field, 44% from three. And it's just also, from a defensive standpoint, just to better a defensive option than JP. So I understand the thought process of going that route, but if we're looking at the shooting of what you needed because of having a non-shooting big, then I think that I probably would have. You could have kept JP, but hey, who knows there? Who knows? Either way, not going to complain about that one. But we all know trade of the century. Austin traded Field, one of their bigger rebounders, for Robbie, who only had a point guard submitted. So of course we traded defense for offense. And yes, beginning of the season, Robbie and Greg actually were playing really, really great together in runs. From what I heard, Petty said the same thing. Him and Robbie's playing really great. Runs and rec, runs and fives, so different from league play. When we have league play, we lock in, we get we got our game plan set up. We know what you want to do, so it's completely different. Please guys, stop comparing the two. Stop comparing the two because the way that you got to look at the entire lineup. If Greg and Robbie are playing great on in the fives, who were the other three players? Because somebody got to make a sacrifice. If those two are meshing so good, what were they doing? Then, hey, if you want to build your team around those two guys, then do it. But it's very hard to have two ball dominant players and then say, oh yeah, let me get a third. It just don't work. So Team UNC not going to really be the dead horse when it comes to it. I think we all know that it was a bad decision. Hindsight 2020. I mean, even foresight should have been 2020. This just wasn't a good trade. Season was pretty much thrown down the drain there. And in this instance, it's not just this is not just a Austin thing. I'm not going to say just as Austin thing because Austin he checked in with guys. And I think if enough guys said, I don't think that this works, then he wanted to make the deal. He wanted to make the trade. But it was enough guys that said that they felt like this was a, a deal worth trying for us to win a championship. Now, from something that I also heard was that it was made because not wanting Texas to have Robbie. Now, if that's the case, then captains moving forward, make trades for you. Make trades for your team. Don't make trades to block another because you're worried about another. Texas, if it was Syracuse, maybe. But Texas wasn't even a top team at the time. We worried about somebody who was fighting for the fourth and fifth seed. So that just wasn't. No, that's just not. No, just not. Two top teams. Kansas, Syracuse. Two of the three teams that I did say would be in this position. So because just from the draft, I felt Keyshawn drafted a very good team. Kansas was a very good team. You had Yoke, Martin, and I want to before I go there, before I leave there, I want to make sure I mention this: the rivalry, Yodi, Greg, Yodi, once again won, went to the finals. This is Yodi's third trip to the finals in a row. He has the opportunity to win 3 chips in a row. And in doing so, and actually beat Greg on his way there to the championship as well. Let's make sure I mention that as well. And I don't think that there's, and I know Greg, listen, if we're talking head to head, you want to say, script all the accolades, just, forget the winning basketball games and we just go one on one. Hey, yeah, we're, in the same boat, same field. But when it comes to winning games, when it comes to being a winner at this point, I don't think there's any question. If we're looking at who are you going to draft, you're going to draft Greg, you're going to draft Yo. It depends on the team. But if I'm wanting someone to lock in and win at this point, hey man, I'm sorry, bro. I'm getting Yodi. He's played multiple different roles. Even in 3 years in a row, he's played 3 different roles. And in all those cases, guess what? He's in the finals. So if he's able to win, and I'm just gonna say it, they're underdogs. If he's able to pull out a win here, I'm not gonna say it, but where where do you place him in the all time? Is he then plastered on your Mount Rushmore? Because this will be an uphill battle. And if he's able to come out a win, whoo man, that does something right there, guys. That really, really does something there. So I mean, shout out to Yodi. A few seasons ago, I found myself in a party trying to defend Yodi from everybody saying that, he's not as good as what you guys say he is. He's not a point guard. He's not this, he's not that. And then now 2 championships later, you know, people are probably gonna try to find something else tomorrow. But can't question the winning. Can't question the winning. Martin was a no-show for round one. We don't need that into round two. We need Martin to show up, ball out, and be locked in. I'm not sure, out for personal reasons. It's just 2K. I'm just gonna say that it's just 2K. So I'm listen, I understand it. I got a life of my own. So if there's something more pressing, I'm not showing up either. So, but hopefully we get a chance to see this team at their full power. Neil, I need Rick Neal. Hey Neil, I need Rick Neal. Play loose. Play loose. Just ball. Don't be so rigid. Don't always try to give the ball back to Yodi because you can actually from go get a bucket from time to time. Just be on attack mode. This team is going to need you to be on attack. Do not be passive. Do not be in your head. It's just a game. I need Rick Needle. B Ross is going to do B Ross things. Um, love this pickup. One of those guys that actually fell to the bottom of the third, top of the fourth. Very strange, if you ask me. But yeah, B Ross, knockdown shooter, defender. I'm not sure what position he's going to play. He played two guard there, a lock in round one. I like that. I'm not sure if they're going to keep it there, but either way, he's a threat, huge threat. Hunter is going to be huge. He's going to be super important because I'm just speaking if from the perspective of a basketball. Like this is it's a video game, but yes, it's still basketball. Hunter is going to have to knock down shots, and I'm pretty sure if I'm playing and we're deciding what I want Yoke to go off or I want Martin, no, I'm going to make sure that I try to restrict that. And Hunter's going to have to knock down shots. Yes, he's done it. Hunter's been shooting great, but let's just hey for the season, he shot 36% from three. Yodi shot 45. You know, B Ross shot 64. So who do you want shooting? I mean, you just got to play your numbers. You got to play your percentages here in this instance. So, and once again, same thing to Hunter. Play free. Play free. You are in this instance just by build, and I hope I'm not gonna strike up any more Syracuse because I don't think I help anybody's chances when I say things against them. But I mean, just by build, Hunter should should out rebound at least his matchup. And so I think attack the glass, knockdown shots. Hunter will be a huge threat. Syracuse, talk about Ajante. At this point, multiple time MVP. At this case, going to win multiple, 2 times an MVP in a row, possibly win 2 final MVPs in a row, which would also be his 4th championship. It's going to get to a point where this guy's going to get bored of dominating the way in the fashion that he is. He's going to pull a season 1 sat and just say, all right, well, hey, I'm done. Hang it up like MJ. If he wins this, same question about Yo. Does he enter is he on your Mount Rushmore? Is he already on your Mount Rushmore? Does he enter the greatest of all time? I mean, let's just be here. Let's just sit here at this moment. Right now, it's not too many guys that got 3 championships, and nobody has 4. So I mean, where do you put this guy now? And there's still others from a competitive standpoint that will argue and still want to go back and forth with Ajante before the season. We had the pod that talked about being a leader of men, and of course, and I still stand on this. Did not like the way that the Bryant thing was handled there. You suit up now, and once again, if it was me, if I was a captain, and I was Bryant, I wouldn't have done the trade the way that it went. So I'm definitely going to put a little bit of onus on just, even though he sent that message, it could have been handled differently by the captain. And if it was me, it would have. Or if it was something, I mean, not even just me, if it was James, if it was Chris, I mean, if it was any, it would have been handled differently. But it is what it is. Didn't care for it. And that's where the questioning of the leader of men conversation came in. But I've been in chats, and this guy leads even in rec games. I'm playing rec runs with him and Johnny decides to use the square button. And and Bullock is like, "Hey man, what you doing? What you doing? Like, what? I thought we was rhythm shooting." Because as a leader, he knows that increases your chance to shoot the ball. And I'm gonna need you to shoot not just in rec, but I'm gonna need you to shoot when it comes. And that it's the small things. It's the very, very small things that other people probably won't pay attention to. But these small things, these small qualities makes a not only a leader, but a champion. So you add that with the hunger that Keyshawn has of just dominating. I mean, this team was a winning team, and they're in the chats, and just sources tell me that they've had some back and forths but it helped them. But that's where the competitive juices come in at, and you're just wanting to win. Doesn't matter how you win, you just want to win. And this team really has, if they lose, they're going to beat themselves. Keys to winning. I mean, their keys to winning, honestly, I don't even want to give out keys to winning because they're already doing that. I almost want to just give out, if they don't do it, they won't win because of it. But few things. Bullock has to be Bullock. We know what that means. Johnny has to play great defense. He has to shoot at a high clip from the 3 and don't make any negative turnovers. George has to shoot at a high clip. He really needs to shoot at a high clip. Take smart shots and get on the break. Keyshawn needs to continue to do Keyshawn-like things, play great defense, help rebound the ball. I just said what I said about Hunter. That's going to be a thing, but he's going to have to make sure he helps Uzi rebound the ball. And Uzi, pick and pop. I mean, hit the shots, rebound the ball. His role really it's going to be the same as Hunter. Just be a threat, because I don't know what Kansas. I don't know how they're going to walk into this matchup and how they're going to shape up there, because you got to have a game plan. I played on several different teams, and it can't just be, we just got to knock down our shots, guys, and we're going to win. No, that's not it. That's not it. Like, you need to be detailed as the Kobe Bryant thing that he used to do before he passed. I mean, which direction are you allowing Bullock to go? Bullock takes screens from left hash or right hash. He's a threat on both of them. when he's on the left hash, which direction are you pushing him? Are you going to allow him to go both ways? If you allow him to go both ways, then now he has more control. He can get to the paint, he can dunk, he can go to wherever pass that he wants to. Shot Bullock, a lot of times in the last second of a shot clock, you think he's going to take up a shot and he dots a corner. Are you going to stay alive? Are you going to allow Bullock to beat you? Or are you going to possibly allow the entire team to beat you? You got to make that decision on what you want to do. When I look at the team that we faced in MMA, Austin, similar constructed team outside of the biggest discrepancy would be Uzi and Jarvis. Because Jarvis was another shooting big and he's none shooting big. And then you had Uzi, who's a knockdown shooter is a big. But they were very heavy on the screen and roll for them mostly. And you had shooters all the way around. Everybody was a knockdown shooter. This team is constructed very much the same outside of the fact that they are much better defensively. And you have Bullock, who's a, highlight 3-point hunter. So Kansas got to make a big decision on which way they're going to play that screen and roll. Are we going to force them towards the screen, force them away from the screen? Is Hunter going to show? Is he dropping? Are we even allowing Hunter to guard the P&R or the P? I mean, these are all questions. If you're not asking these questions, you're going to lose. If you're not asking these questions, you're going to lose. If you're going in with a simple game plan of we play our best basketball and we win, you're not going to beat that team because that team, Syracuse, is going to plan for Kansas. They're going to ask those questions. Yoke's not a dribble guy, right? He's not left, right, speed boost, but he does like to get to the mid. He does get behind the screen. Are we going to allow it? Are we going to play him towards the screen? We're going to play him away from the screen. Hunter, when Hunter pops, is Bullock switching? Are we switching it? Are we doing a full switch? Or are we making sure we rotate? Are we face guard Neal? Are we face guarding B. Ross? Are we sewing up the back doors? Making sure nobody gets back door. Martin. Man. Martin. Do we allow Martin to just shoot himself in the foot? He shot 35% from three. I mean, we don't even know if Martin's going to be available. I don't know. I haven't been in the chat, so I'm not sure what the word is. I'm going to expect that he's there, and that's how we're going to play it. So on the P&R with him, is very different. So are we pressing up? Are we pressing Martin? Are we making sure he gets rid of the ball? I mean, are we allowing just him to take hopefully a contested three? Allow the person to defend that pick and roll by themselves and play drop coverage the center will? I mean, I don't know, but these are all questions you have to ask. It's the finals, man. You spend all this time, you've invested practices. Just don't go into the game saying we play our best basketball, we win. Yes, I understand that you just want to play great, cool. But if you don't got a game plan going in, you're doing it all wrong. This is still basketball. It's 2K. So implement that. Yes, but it's still basketball. And you guys made it here to the finals. I just don't want to see a sweep. I don't want to see a sweep. I don't think nobody wants to see a sweep. We want to see some good games, man. And I think that the way these two teams are constructed, as I mentioned now, yes, Syracuse is a very good team, but this Kansas team can do it. We got a lot of winners on this team, a lot of championship DNA on that Kansas team. So I just want to see good basketball. With that being said, my pick to win it all, Syracuse. I just don't think that Team Kansas has enough, so I'm gonna pick Syracuse to win it. But from the step of an underdog, I'm deep down rooting for Kansas. I'm just deep down rooting for Kansas here, man. It's the underdog story about it, so there's a piece of me that, I may have that Syracuse jersey on, but right up under it, I may have a Kansas jersey. I don't know. So, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Let's discuss a few things here about this season. Once again, just reporting the news here, guys. Not sure if it's came out yet what the next moves are. I think I saw next captains have been chosen, which I don't know how you're choosing captains yet when you don't even know how many people are playing next season. I don't. So I don't know. So they're working on it, doing the best they can. If for the guys who may listen to this, go ahead and vote. If you have not voted, guys, I've been on the commissioner side, and you sit there and to help them be able to operate this thing with no issues, no problem. We we as whether you're a player, reserve, observer, whatever, like just be like I, all those guys in the chat. Last I checked, it was only like 16 votes. Hey, that sorry, kids, it's only 16. It was only 16 votes, and you have a lot of guys in that chat. Now, if you're just waiting because you don't know, okay, understandable. But like, if you know whether it's yes or no, please go ahead and just vote. So that way, the captains at least have an understanding of how. I'm not captains, commissioners. They have an understanding of how many people they have available. It's going to play. Then it makes it easier to, from there, choose captains. Now, going into next season, I don't. Sources tell me, at least it seems like to me, a lot of people had a lot of issues with a lot of things that was, as I had a conversation, I've had a pod about this before about not turning back. This league has came a long way from season one. There's a lot of things that was wrong with season one, and we've came a long way, and yet and still not not that far because some people don't want to progress. They don't want to, they want it to be, oh, it's too complicated. No, it's not complicated. You want to run a league, just do a tournament. Just do a tournament if you don't want to put some work into it. But as a player, I'm going to speak about this as a player. The first season, captains had the control. You get drafted by a captain, you can't choose what team you go to. And whether you're mad about it or whatever, because once again, the captain also can trade you at any point in time that they want. Why not season two give the players some control? Put the work in. Whether you're putting points one by one, use the draft, elevate people who overplayed their spots. Like, do something that gives the players more control so they can decide. All right, I may not want to play for this cap. I want to play for this captain. I want to like that just allows this lead to because hey, it's a lot of guys is getting boring for. One of the one of the funnest things that I was on the captain side of it, but we did free agency and it was set up the right way where it just wasn't wild, wild west. It was fun for a lot of players. It was fun for the captains as well, because I was shocked at, how things were falling. I mean, I was doing my thing. I was reaching out to players and whether they were signed somewhere else or I mean, there was fun with it. And it just was something different. And once again, it allows guys to have at least some control. Hey, Austin, who was a player at that point, highly valued talent in the league, you know, was recruiting, was trying to construct his team. And I've heard that for some reason they feel like that was the free agency didn't work because of the way that strictly business was constructed. And I don't know if that's the case. That's just what I've heard. And I just want to remind everyone: forget your narratives, forget what you got to say about it. But every team had their big two or valuable assets on their team. For myself, I had Ace, I had Chris, I had Phil, and then I went and grabbed Denarius. So to anybody who looks at that team and you want to say that, oh, that team wasn't constructed good, well, you're crazy. Strictly business. James was able to keep two players, Lou and I think Hunter, but then was able to go grab Line and Yoke. Once again, great team. Line and Yoke, you got your role players, great team. BG, he was able to get Tay. We all know how Tay balls. He got Robbie. We know what Robbie is. And he was still able to construct a good team in Will. In Will, for people who don't know, was one of the higher three-point shooters in the league that season. So the league was very balanced with the way that people constructed their teams. It's just how you performed. How did you perform? And in some instances, there was other underlying factors of just chemistry issues, blah, blah, blah. We ain't got to get into that. But I mean, teams were good. You just kind of got to put the work in to make sure that the balance, it works. But that's just my 2 cents. Listen, I'm not a commissioner and I don't want to be one. But I'm only saying this as a person who does enjoy being an observer of what we've been able to create here for a lot of these brothers that we would have never met if we never done this. So it's fun. And then not to mention, if and I'm not trying to be my brother's keeper, but what I mean by that is saying when you don't, you got certain people who may decide, hey, I want to go, I'm just gonna play with anybody. If these brothers can't get together, I'm just gonna go play with, others, you know, quotation marks, others. So only thing I'm saying is keep what we got going. And think of outside of the box, even if it's not free agency, really consider other outside the box things to make this thing fun instead of just the captains being able to decide where you go and have control and power every single season. That gets old. Reserve system, 10 reserves last season, only 2 used. I said it before the season. Why do we have, 10 reserves? Why we didn't make another team? The only thing I'm going to say is this. What are we doing this league for? Like, I want and I'm going at the commissioners when I say this. I'm sorry. I'm going at you when I say this because, and you can like it, dislike it. You can go in the chat, create the narrative you want. I'm saying this to you and I'll have this conversation in person with you. So if you want to have this conversation, and you also have my phone number if you want to text me, you want to call me, you don't like what I said, you don't got to go in the chat, talk about it, clown it. You can call me or text me. So this is one of the other reasons why the MMA was created too, as well, because of the treatment of the lower value of the league, right? You want people to reserve because you need reserves. You actually need people to reserve. You need it. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't beg people all the time to reserve. You need the reserves. So if you have it, what makes me as a person that reserves the next season, why would I not want to go to a place where I would actually be used? Because we all want to play. I think that's the thing that's missing. Like people feel like, oh, well, if you want to play, get better. If I had that attitude when I ran tournaments in real life, a lot of you guys would have not been able to play at my tournaments. But that's not the attitude that we have. Why? Because we're brothers. Let's keep that in mind. Just saying. But literally, this thing is for everybody. If people want to participate and you have the ability to you want to get as many people the opportunity to play as possible. You don't do that by having 10 reserves just because you're trying to, and I've heard somebody say this, well, you guys left when it was too many teams, so we didn't want to do too many teams. No, 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 no. We, speaking for myself, I left because there were introductions of people that, and I think most people can agree, very questionable, very questionable. We don't got to go down that path. But I think the right decision was made by quite a few people. Hence the reason why MMA had so many people jumping ship. It wasn't about how many teams you had or how many people have joined. It was about the vetting of the people that we had. So the vetting is right, and you got all these people. Get these people involved. What you're going to do is you're going to push them out the league, and then you're not going to have a league. You're not going to have a league. So, like, if you got 3 or 4, you literally had 2 reserves all season, and it went well. So how many reserves do you really need? Do you need 3, 4? That sounds about it. So if you got 8 people left over, you need to make another team. I mean, once again, me saying this, I'm not a commissioner. I'm only speaking from the term or from a people standpoint of someone who likes and enjoys the league. When a lot of people will make the decision, I'll use M. Will, for instance, who put himself as a reserve only in fear that he wouldn't get drafted and didn't want to. I mean, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, maybe and face the embarrassment of it all. I don't know. Guys like Ahmad, who once again went reserve only, and these guys then go full time in other leagues. So I don't know what that is about, but that should tell you enough to say these guys don't feel comfortable enough to play full time in this league, but then they'll play full time in another league. So in order to avoid, and it's already happened before, so I'm not just talking, it can happen, to avoid losing a bunch of players to other opposing leagues, I mean, you got to make this make sense. You got to like erase the brain from all this too competitive ideas of saying, hey, well, you got to get better in order to get picked. Yes, that's true. If you're not, as a captain, former captain, I'm going to pick best player available. So I understand that part. That's not what I'm speaking on, but everybody can't play. So first of all, that has to be an understanding. Everybody can't go. Everybody can't play. So there's going to have to be somebody that's going to be a reserve. That's cool. But 10 reserves, 9 reserves, when 5 of those guys could have possibly been on the team. And now we're going to go up and down the line. We're going to say who's reserve on, who's reserve on, who's reserve on. Trust me, I've already ironed all this out. There was enough players. Players didn't even start backing off until they said it was going to be 5 teams and there's going to be 9 reserves. People started counting it up. And not to mention me doing my draft mock. And then they started realizing, hey, I may not get drafted. Let me just be reserve only. Let me just not worry about all the pressure of it. If it would have came out with 6 teams and 6 people knew, or 30 people knew that, hey, I'm going to be on a roster, you probably would have had more active full-time guys, because then they wouldn't have to worry about possibly facing, for them, an embarrassment of not being drafted. But anyway, I'm off my high horse. Back to the matter at hand. Finals, last run of the season. Once again, I got my Syracuse jersey on. Right up under, I got my Kansas jersey on. Yes, I'm rocking with both teams. Love the way Syracuse plays ball, the way it handles things, but also love the competitive nature of a Yodi, of a B. Ross, of a Hunt. Like the entire go through the entire team. I love the way those guys are look like those guys. So just want to see some good basketball. Want to see a good season going forward. I want to see season 2 being ran and actually having some good games there. So listen, it's been fun. Potting has been fun. May not get to season 2. Love you guys though, but been fun. But we will. My other pod, however, Truth by Rome, we will be introducing some new episodes once the season is over. And haven't talked to James. Hopefully, we have a in between 3v3, maybe. Maybe. Anyway, yep. But watch your narrative, guys. We're out.